what you do for me and you. Good morning, everybody. Today's podcast is going to be a very culinary driven one, and I hope everybody listens because my guest today is none other than my friend, Chef John Adler. Chef John Adler is a traveling chef from East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I had the pleasure to dine with him a couple weeks ago at a restaurant that he is no longer at. Chef John was on the team that helped Saison in San Francisco go from 1 to 2 Michelin stars. This kid is a culinary whiz. He is a culinary elitist, and he's a food snob, and I love it. So we are going to get into this podcast very soon, but first I need to let you know about our sponsors. As always, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by DiMichele's Barbershop and Emporium, located at 6 Kirby Road in Cromwell, Connecticut, exit 21 off 91. DiMichele's specializes in all types of haircuts and hot shaves. Services are available by appointment only, which can be made conveniently online at DiMichele's Barbershop. That's DIMICHELES Barbershop.com or by calling 860-502-3540. Gift cards are available in any denomination, and they also offer my personal favorite, their own water-soluble pomade. Boom! So go get a fresh cut, a clean shave, and some awesome product and tell them Ben sent you. DiMichele's Barbershop and Emporium. Responsible barbering. When you go onto their website, it's so easy to make an appointment. That's my favorite thing about it. You pick the day on the calendar. It gives you the times that he's available, and you fucking hit a button. It sends it to your phone. It sends it to your email. Foolproof. You could be a total fucking dumbass, and you will get yourself a haircut by a very beautiful man by the name of Eli DiMichele. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't too hot out today, but so beat that motherfucking heat with the one and only Nitro Cold Brew. Boom! The cold kick in the pants that summer deserves. Summer demands. Summer doesn't deserve shit. A proud sponsor of BB with BG, the Cold Brew Coffee Company offers you their infamous Nitro Cold Brew and now carries a selection of delicious and refreshing nitro teas and lemonade. Products are fair trade, organic, and available at your favorite Connecticut bars, restaurants, farmers markets, and more. Not in Connecticut? No problem. Products are available for purchase online at coldbrewcc.com. Stay up to date with the newest flavors and retailers by checking out Cold Brew CC on Instagram. Cold Brew CC, the best damn cold brew. If you guys can't find it in your area, go online, and there's probably a small Google map as to where he's selling all of his products. They're really good. If you live in central Connecticut, go to the Coventry Farmers Market on Sunday. Tell Gary I said to let you get a little sip of something. Good times. And I would like to announce my newest, maybe my favorite sponsor of all time. Cala Style Soap. Now, you've heard me talk about my favorite volcanic ash soap lately that I use on my butt and my feet. Okay? I would use it all over my body, but I just don't. I use it for that. You ever been in a small gift store and they have like the cedar soap, the egg white soap, the sea salt soap with the little anchor on it? That company, Cala Style, it's my favorite soap. I'm a man. I don't really get fucking worked up about soap. And I love this soap. And when I started talking about it, my friend Alice, that I've been friends with for over 10 years, was like, hey, I work for that company, blah, blah, blah. Let's work something out. She sends me a bunch of soap. I make her a sponsor. Now I'm looking through the About Us section on their website. It's her parent. It's her company. Her brother, her mom, and her dad all own it. All Cala Style soaps are natural and or organic in color, fragrance, and ingredients. Many Cala Style soaps have been made throughout Europe for over 100 years. These are very high-quality soaps. No animal testing ever. Cala Style has no minimum for opening orders and reorders. Cala Style is pleased to sample you. Overnight 2-day and 3-day delivery available. Gift wrap available with gift card enclosed at no charge. or you can call us at 1-800-755-KALA, and we will mail you a catalog. Go online, kalastyle.com is the website. There's all kinds of good shit. I can't wait to get into my cedar soap. It's very manly, but I'm not done with my volcanic ash soap. Alice, you're a doll. We'll probably see each other real soon. All right, everybody. We're going to get into this motherfucking podcast right now. I want everybody to have a good Tuesday. Drop me, email me, you know what I mean? If anybody knows my phone number, you can hit me up, email me, let me know what you want to hear, ask me some questions. If you want to put somebody's business out there and have me confront them on a podcast, let me know. We'll do it. I just really want to entertain people, okay? All right, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.
I break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, I break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread, I break bread, break bread, break bread, break bread,
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a beautiful man here today. A wonderful chef by the name of John Adler. John, hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Yeah, we were just getting a couple, I was getting the background to you, and I didn't want to talk too much because I didn't want to, have it wasted to dead air. So let me know where, tell me about your history as a chef.
Sure.
Your journey.
So I grew up in Western Mass and started cooking when I was 14 because no other place would hire me other than a restaurant, which is the way I think a lot of people got involved in this industry in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Started off as a dishwasher, worked my way up to prep cook, and worked my way through high school. Then went to college for engineering, decided I hated it, dropped out, dicked around for a few years, and then decided to go to culinary school. So I moved to New York City when I was 21, went to culinary school, and then worked around the city for a while. Ended up, when I was 26, getting a sous chef position at a restaurant called the Breslin, which is
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's at the Ace Hotel.
Okay.
It's owned by April Bloomfield.
Okay.
So I was the chef that's in charge of all of production, events, charcuterie, butchery, for the hotel and restaurant.
They're still operating, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, one Michelin star restaurant
Awesome.
in Midtown. Did that for a bit, then moved to San Francisco, worked at Cezanne, was part of the team that got us from 2 to 3 Michelin stars.
See, that's the excellent part right there. I love that.
And
That's
then
really cool.
Went back to New York, worked at a restaurant called Contra, which...
Yeah, I love Contra. Contra is very, art. It's art on a plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. That's actually on my list coming up for before. I want to get there before the fall comes, or I'd like to go there for fall because I'd really like to see what they would do seasonally. You know what I mean? Yeah, that restaurant's awesome.
So I worked there for about a year and then ended up moving back to Western Mass to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last year or so, I was helping run a restaurant called Seven Strong, which I'm no longer at. But
Okay.
in the time being that I was there, we did some pretty cool stuff.
And I would like everybody to know that that's where I met you, and that's where I was served my favorite meal of 2017.
Well, thank you.
It was excellent. And I'll tell you right now, there wasn't a lot. I'm a meat eater, okay? And I think there was probably about, other than, the copa you brought out, there wasn't a lot of meat.
Mm-mm.
And I still loved everything. I'm still talking to people about it. I've been raving about it. And I'm from Connecticut. And I have a lot of chef friends down here. And like I told you, Matt Wick thought that was excellent. And me and him had a conversation about you. And it was like a little gem that I had found that night. You're not there anymore, and I'm sure you're going to go somewhere and do something even better. And I really want to be tipped off when you do find out where you're going. But I will tell you, man, that fucking meal was excellent. That was grade A. That was like a 10 out of 10. And I never say that. I've said that about Stone Barns, and that's about it. I had a really, really awesome meal at Flour and Water, and it still didn't live up to that. That was awesome. I don't think there was any pasta though in your tasting menu.
I mean, a large portion of what our philosophy at the restaurant and what my philosophy in cooking in general is to try and cook from what makes sense for the region. So our philosophy was cooking Pioneer Valley cuisine and doing whatever is close to naturally, the food would naturally be there. So it being in the middle of summer, traditionally people wouldn't be eating a lot of meat because there's bounty of vegetables. The only meat that would be around would be the stuff that they've have left over from last year or things like that. So it's reflective in that. And I think that a large part of what is reflected in my cooking now and from my experience is really trying to focus on finding an identity for the area that I'm cooking in and for this country in general. I mean, America's cuisine is kind of in a weird spot if you think about it, because our country comes from a place where we eliminated the natural inhabitants of here. So the culture behind our cuisine is only about 300 years old now.
I think about that all the time. I actually was thinking about this the other night, and I surprised myself because it's actually a really smart thought, and I really don't have a lot of those. But imagine we were settled and the Indians weren't, like, the native people weren't killed off.
Yeah.
Imagine what kind of like the kind of like influence that would have on your restaurant today in 2017.
Totally.
It would be insane. It would be awesome. Imagine like Navajo or like Cherokee cooking taken to like a fine dining level 300 years later. That would be awesome. But we kind of screwed that up.
Totally. I think the other important thing to realize is, and I ask people all the time, like, what percentage of people in this country do you think would be able to survive if every restaurant and grocery store disappeared?
5%. Not
I'd
even.
say less.
Less than that.
Yeah. And that's kind of crazy that in this day and age, when we're supposed to be an advanced civilization, that for one of our basic human needs, which is feeding ourselves, we're so dependent on anyone else other than ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you'd only have hunters and guys that were in the army, like, fending for themselves and actually killing their food, fishing, and making it. Everybody else would go the way of the dodo. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really funny you bring that up because I don't hunt myself. However, like, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and there's two types of people that hunt. Guys that do it for sport, that don't care about like eating the meat, and guys that do it that, are doing something for the conservation of the species. Like, I was just talking to somebody the other day, like, you'll have a guy go in and kill like a 12-point buck only for the trophy, but then you'll have the guy that kills the older deer and like lets like the little deer he sees caught in a fence go free because he knows one day he'll be the stud, and like that's how it cycles out.
Totally.
My father back in the day like stopped hunting because of something similar to that. You know what I mean? Like, he had a bad experience. He shot a deer in the wrong place. It like hit it in the leg and it ran off, and he knew it would die sooner or later, but it would be a gruesome death because it would be days later. My dad tracked it, found it, and killed it just so he wouldn't do that. Never hunted again after that. It like hurt something inside of him. So it's really important when people are just out there just like taking like deer and bear and stuff for like taxidermy, or are you going to eat it? You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, and I have no problem with hunting when it's somebody like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll tell you right now, it would be hard for me to sustain myself if like everybody went the way of like having to fend for themselves. I'd probably fish, I'd do what I could, but like you said, it would definitely be, it's probably about a 1% of the population that'd be able to do that.
And that's crazy when you think about how like advanced we are as a civilization.
We're advanced technical. I can't even speak today technologically, but like your iPhone isn't going to kill a deer for you.
No.
You know what I mean? And that, I don't even know if that constitutes advanced. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But,
as Americans, in other places around the world, this isn't a problem.
That's not a problem because it's all indigenous peoples that, like, passed on what they knew to the next generation.
Exactly.
And it's just like we live in kind of a weird bubble, a weird commercialized bubble. You know what I mean? But getting back to what you were saying, I know I know what you mean about using everything from the region. Like,
totally.
I asked you that night, like, you said that the pork was from it's no more than 30 miles away.
So it was from a farmer that I had a direct relationship with. His name's Cosmo Ferrenti. He runs a farm called Hilltown Grazers. There's only 200 pigs on the farm. He runs the whole thing by himself. They're free-range pigs. They feed off whatever they can find. and that's it.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
I know a guy in Kinderhook, New York, and the pig farm is called Lover's Leap, and it's run by a couple, and he actually let us film a rap video there.
Oh, that's super cool.
And we just had pigs running around. I got bit in the leg. It was awesome, but like, it takes a lot to do something like that. But this guy, I've definitely seen eating in the Hudson, Albany, Poughkeepsie area, even like Western Connecticut. I've seen his name on a lot of menus for like where they're pulling the pork from, you know what I mean? And those are all people that are using like locally sustainable farms. But that's the thing to me, like you can call it farm to table, whatever. A lot of people use it, a lot of people don't like the term, but like the idea of helping out that local guy and not getting Costco or what are those called? Like any of these like delivery companies that'll just deliver you whatever you want on a weekly basis. Like that, those are the restaurants that I'm trying to eat in today. You know what I mean? And for the last couple of years,
I think it's important to look at it and take it kind of a step beyond that too. I mean, yeah, the idea of something being farm to table is kind of stupid because every restaurant's farm to table because all food comes from farms.
It comes from a farm somewhere, yeah.
But if you take it one step further and you say, okay, why am I using telesherry black pepper, like cracked black pepper, on my cooking? Like people think that's a basic thing. The majority of black pepper in the world comes from Indonesia and India.
Yeah.
That's not local.
That's not local.
Why are we using lemons and limes in Massachusetts just because, you know, even in a cocktail or something? Is it because our palate is used to having that citric acid feeling on our mouth? Well, where did these lemons and limes really come from? If you're getting it through a mass distributor, it's probably coming from some place in Florida where migrant workers were picking these lemons just for your personal enjoyment.
And not getting paid anything where they should be getting paid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's normalized.
Yeah.
And people just don't, they're like, okay, well, I'm doing the good thing by helping out the local farmers and whatnot, but I'm still doing this other aspect of it. And they're not thinking about that.
Yeah. They take it to the first step and they think, oh, I'm being ethical. And they're not looking any deeper into it. That a lot of people don't know that. I would go as far to say probably a lot of chefs don't do that either.
Unfortunately, they don't. And, you know, a lot of people look at things like, you know, fermentation and preservation of food as like a cool thing. You know, it was a survival technique, and it should be a survival technique in terms of restaurants as well. All you're doing is reducing your food costs by eliminating waste and preserving things that would otherwise go in the trash. The fact that it's beneficial to your cuisine by enhancing the flavor and bringing something unique that's not just necessarily discernible to your palate is an added bonus.
Talking about using everything, the night I ate at the restaurant you were cooking at, you brought me down into the basement. At the request, Matt told me to ask you for the basement. He knows what I like. I know what he likes. And I was blown away by all the behind-the-scenes stuff that you had going on down there. And you talk about not wasting anything. I think I wrote in the review about the onion skins.
Well, onion skins are crazy. I mean, we saved onion skins for about 4 months. So we had about 24 quarts of onion skins, dried them out, and then ground them into a powder. I took like a cup of onion skins with a quart of water, brought it up to a boil, and strained it. I had this insanely rich onion broth that we then mixed with some sugar that we extracted from beets and made a glaze from onion skins, and it was incredibly rich.
What'd you put that on?
Some pork belly that was served with some pickled roses.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like, I know you showed me all the lacto fermentation and all the pickling going on down in the basement, and I just had a friend of mine on 2 weeks ago, and he doesn't work in the industry, but he just does it. He's a vegan, and he does everything. You give him something, he'll either pickle it or ferment it. And like when I go to this guy's house, like you would really appreciate this. He can make what he's cooking looks like it should be coming out of a restaurant. And I always wanted him to get involved and try to do that because the kid's got talent, but he works at a health food store. And I tell you, like he tells me how to do it. Like this, I got to go tomorrow. I want to get some from the farmer's market. I don't know if I can find any locally. I might have to go to Trader Joe's to get some, but I want to pickle some blueberries just to do some crazy weird stuff with. You know what I mean? Like put it in like
I would recommend
dessert.
pickling green blueberries, to be honest.
To get them while they're
unripe blueberries.
Because you were doing it with the strawberries too, right?
Yeah, I actually, I mean, that's a lot of things that people don't consider too. Is when you go to the grocery store and you look at food, this is only one part of the plant or one stage of the plant. If you look at something, like a carrot, like you have the carrot root,
Yep.
but then you also have the carrot greens, and then you have the flowers, and the flowers go to seed, and all of these different things have different flavors. And then you can leave a carrot in the ground over the winter time, and it gets overwintered, and the sugars develop more, and the flavor changes.
Oh, I've never had that.
Yeah.
I have had carrot top pesto before. Somebody made exclusive pesto from carrot tops, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't like your average foodie, doesn't know about these things. Like I do because I have the people like you to talk to and like chef friends and stuff. But your average person that thinks they're going out and knowing everything about what there is to eat, they do not even know about that side of preservation, pickling, and fermenting. And it's like a new stage.
I think all it really takes is talking to farmers, though, because they're the people who know all this stuff and still practice all of these things because they're with it every day. They know what it takes to grow vegetables, and they have this abundant supply of vegetables, and the way they're able to sustain themselves, because farming's now a lucrative business, is by preserving these things. They're the ones who are passing these things on, and it's our responsibility as chefs to develop these relationships with farmers to be able to understand where these methods come from and how to utilize these plants in a proper way. And that's really the meaning behind farm to table. When people say farm to table, I think they're really just talking about having a close relationship with farmers and doing things in a moral and ethical way. And as far as you take that is, up to you. But that's what people really mean when they say farm to table.
Okay. What's funny is I heard the term used a lot in probably 2012 to 2015. It's kind of phased out a little bit. People are starting to get it, and they know it goes deeper than that. You know what I mean? Well, as far as people in it's the echelon that you are in. You know what I mean? But let's talk about what's your favorite? What are your favorite dishes to cook?
I mean, personally, or in a restaurant?
Both.
In a restaurant, I like to just have really high quality product and present things as simply as possible. If I got a piece of fish that was caught that morning and was alive and I killed it myself and aged the flesh and then cooked it perfectly, depending on what fish, that takes the most skill. You're not hiding behind anything. You know what I mean?
You're not hiding behind the seasoning or what you did to it or the cooking method.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of cooking other people, I mean, I don't really care. I just like cooking for other people. It doesn't matter to me. And I'd say that I have enough experience with cooking that if you give me something, I'll make it delicious.
Oh, I know. Definitely. The dessert that night was, there were the tartlets, but that maple milk dish.
Yeah.
What were the grains in that?
It was a mixture of different grains. So there was wheat berries, barley, and triticale, which is a hybrid between wheat and rye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Explain to everybody that dish, because it was. How did you get that consistency, that puffiness out of that liquid?
So it's actually, I can't take credit for that dish because it's been copied so many times. It originated probably as a dish at Noma, and then it was popularized by this restaurant in Copenhagen called Relais. And then the pastry chef at Contra used the combination for a while. But basically, the idea is having some kind of mousse, which is like a fluffy light mousse, with an ice cold granita. That it's become almost like a classic combo in a way in the pastry world. So the mousse is essentially an ice cream base. So cream, milk, sugar, some egg yolk, and some gelatin, and then a couple of modified sugars. One's trimline, which is an invert sugar, and one's glucose.
Okay.
And we replaced some of the sugar with maple sugar. So it was very lightly, but still had a little bit of maple flavor. And you put that in a whipped cream canister and add NO2 to it, so it makes it nice and light and fluffy.
Okay.
And then we made a milk gel, which is essentially a panna cotta. So cream, milk, some sugar, and then the ratio is 140 grams of liquid to 1 sheet of silver gelatin.
Okay.
But it's essentially like a panna cotta, like a jellified milk cream kind of base. Some maple syrup that was reduced by half. So just take maple syrup, bring it up to a boil, and slowly reduce it. And the crystals kind of It slowly crystallizes, but then you blend it so it blends together, so it has a consistency of caramel.
Okay.
Then the puffed grains. So the grains, you just overcook them, so it breaks down all the cells.
Yeah.
Then you dry it, and then you fry it.
Wow. Okay.
What happens when you do that is when you dry a product that's overcooked, those cells slowly start to close up, and they start to retain moisture inside them. And when they have 10 to 12% moisture inside it, and you add it to 375-degree oil, there's a difference in atmospheric pressure. So that water inside the cells wants to burst out, so they puff up.
Okay.
Then there was some yarrow, which is a wild herb. It adds some bitterness to cut through kind of the sweetness of the dessert. And then the granita, which is the shaved ice on top, is made from whey, which is a byproduct of milk.
I remember reading whey granita, and I was just like, if you had a bowl of that by itself, what would it taste like? What would be the closest thing?
Kind of like sweet and almost cheesy. We season it with a vinegar made from elderflower as well, just to add some acidity to it. And then add enough sugar to bring it to the measurement of sugar content in something is called bricks. So we bring it to 14 bricks. And when you scrape it, it has the same consistency as snow. Because when you add salt, sugar, or alcohol to any liquid, it lowers the potential freezing temperature. So you can have it below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and it won't be completely frozen.
Because there's some alcohol in it, yeah.
Well, in this case, there's sugar.
Stuff. Okay, yeah.
There's sugar, so that's preventing it from...
Okay.
Exactly. So that's dessert. In appearance, it's very simple, and it's really only a few ingredients, maple, milk, and then a few other garnishments. But there's a lot of work that goes into it.
There's so many steps to that one dish, and that's why I appreciate stuff like that. I love that dish that night. Where did you go to school?
I went to culinary school in New York at the Institute of Culinary Education. It was about a 6-month culinary program. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I recently met a friend. A friend of mine knows my love for cooking, but knows I've only have rudimentary skills, and he asked me to come help him cook at the James Beard House.
Oh, cool!
Which was my lifetime achievement. And he also had an intern from ICE come down and help, and also one from the one in Hyde Park, the CIA in Hyde Park. And the girl that I met from ICE was a sweetheart. She was awesome, and she was, right up there with your kind of knowledge. It was blowing my mind. You know what I mean? That was a fun night. Have you ever cooked there?
The Beard House? No.
You need to, because you are on a level that blows a lot of the people out of the water that are cooking there lately. They bring in people and they have fun stuff and they do burger nights and stuff, but there is some real high caliber food cook, a lot of guys coming in, and I don't know why you haven't yet. How long have you been working in an actual restaurant is your executive chef, head chef? What do you usually like to be called?
I mean, I don't care. Any place where I'm cooking, I'm going to put my all into it. And it doesn't matter what the title is or what my position necessarily is. I can be the head chef who's basically orchestrating it and running it, or I can be a cook there who's, helping just as much
out
in a different way. It doesn't matter.
Why do they have those titles? Is it because some are French and
it just depends on the hierarchy and how big of an establishment it is. You have a lot of really high end places where you have the commis, who are the people who are doing the very menial work, doing all the herb picking and stuff. And then you have the chef de partie who actually work the station, and then you have the sous chefs, and then you have the chef de cuisine who kind of orchestrates the day to day, and the executive chef who comes up with the concept. And
he's the main guy.
But it depends on how big a place is.
Yeah.
You might have some places where it's 3 guys. You have a cook, the quote unquote sous chef, and the head chef, but all of them are cooking and doing everything. It just depends on how big of an operation you have, what your resources are, and what you're trying to achieve.
If you had your choice, and you probably could do this anyways, but if you had a choice to move to another country based on the caliber of food that was coming out of that area, where would you go?
Well, not necessarily based on the caliber of food, I'd probably go somewhere in Scandinavia just because they're such forward thinkers. But in terms of just moving somewhere, I'd probably go somewhere in Southeast Asia, probably Taiwan or Hong Kong or something, just because I'm so unfamiliar with that culture.
You'd want to learn more.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Hell yeah. See, I haven't had the liberty to leave the country yet. Hopefully one day I will, and there's a lot of restaurants I'd like to hit up. But like we said, you were working in San Francisco for a while. You're working in New York. What are you? Let's talk about what is your three? Let's say a 3-year plan. What do you want to do?
I don't have a plan right now. Right now, I'm just kind of taking some time, so I can figure it out. I'm not planning on jumping into anything unless it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I might go back to working at as a cook at a restaurant, just learning some more.
Mm-hmm.
I might go to Europe and stage, so work for free at some high-end restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and if an opportunity presents itself, I'll move into
Assess
that
the
position.
situation,
Exactly.
yeah.
I'm not going to force myself onto anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to, like any good relationship, you're not going to force it. Right?
Definitely. That's a really, really good philosophy, man. And I think that's lost on a lot of people, chefs, but a lot of people in general. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is about your average, between 30 and 40-year-old person that needs to have it now and force it and shove it down somebody's throat. You know what I mean? Like, I need to move up in my position. I need this job. I need to make a lateral move. Like, it's cool, and it must be relaxing to know that you just don't need to right now, and you'll know when it's time.
Totally.
That's really cool, man. That's awesome. What did you do anything before you got into cooking? Did you have any other vocational skills?
Yeah, I still kind of play music and like to hike and things like that. No other skills in terms of a trade or a craft that I could. Cooking's all I have. That's my.
That's
skill
all
set.
you need.
Yeah.
What instruments do you play?
I play mainly guitar.
Cool.
Yeah.
Electric or acoustic? Both.
Whatever. Yeah.
Like what style?
I can play folk music, jazz, rock music. I just dick around though. It's nothing I actually pursued to I'm decent at best.
What's playing in your car right now on your way here? What'd you listen to?
NPR.
Dude, me too. Let's say you had to listen to music though. What's playing?
Probably some folk music, or I just turn on the radio. At this point, honestly, it's kind of depressing, but because cooking has been such a focus in my life.
You're numb to all the music.
It's not that I'm numb necessarily. It's more that my interest in music didn't grow as much as it was when you're in high school, where you're obsessed with bands and stuff.
It's really hard. It's almost hard to get inspired by new music. How old are you?
I turned 30 in a few months.
So yeah, even that age, you're still young. I'm going to be 40 in a couple months, but even at my age, I find it really hard to listen to something new that I've never heard before and be like, whoa, I've never heard this. This is new. You know what I mean? I have a friend that is really big into collecting 45s, and he's really, really big into old school, real skinhead reggae for Jamaica. And he also is into a lot of weird good country and kind of I was listening to something today, and I sent it to him, and he's an elitist when it comes to that stuff, and I usually don't talk to him about music because I'm just an idiot when it comes to that stuff. And I was like, hey, you ever heard of this? And he was just kind of blown away that I came to him with that suggestion. I forget what it was, but it was more of it was almost like a Mexican country, but you could skank to it. It had a reggae vibe to it. I forget what it was called, but I could look it up. But yeah, I rap. And I am also a black metal enthusiast.
Oh, yeah?
You know what I mean? But at any given, I can listen to anything and appreciate it and know if it's within that genre, if it's cool or not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I play bass. And,
cool.
But again, I haven't picked up a bass and played in a band since, it was early 2000s. But that's cool. Yeah, I am totally an NPR guy, morning and afternoon when I drive around and when I leave work. But I just can't do music some days, and I need to hear news and what's going on or listen to a radio show. And if not, it's a podcast.
Totally.
You know what I mean? A lot of cooking podcasts, a lot of weird, folklore podcasts and stuff like that. But that's cool. So you are from Western Mass, and you do reside in East Long Meadow right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking when you pulled up. There's really nothing going on as far as
it's not that there's nothing going on. What happens in a lot of these small town areas in America, and I'm sure around the world too, is restaurants aren't really run by people who know restaurants. It's people who see business opportunities.
Yep.
So it's someone who needs a business opportunity. They have some money to invest in something, and they come to a town. They say, oh, there's no good Italian place in this town. You know what would be a good business opportunity is to open up an Italian restaurant. And the people in the town don't necessarily know any better because 90% of the people haven't left that area. So they open up the Italian restaurant. And by any standards, it's probably not very good. But people don't have that reference point to know whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
So it thrives. And the best metaphor I can give for this is I give a metaphor about a dentist. So imagine you grew up in a small town and you went to this dentist, and every time you went to get your teeth cleaned, a tooth fell out. But you didn't know any better because you'd never been to any other dentist.
And you're like, oh, it just happens.
So that's your reference point. You're like, that's what happens when you go to the dentist. And then you're like 15 years old, and then this new dentist shows up, and you go there, and he cleans your teeth, and your tooth doesn't fall out. Well, you think it's magic.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any reference point.
Whoa.
Exactly. Either that, or you might be super ignorant and think that he's not doing a good job because your tooth didn't fall out.
I was supposed to lose a tooth today.
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of what's going on in food is at.
Amazing. That's a really good way to look at it. Okay. When I do podcasts, I always come up with ideas, but then I lose them, and sometimes they come back to me. Let's talk about foraging. I know you like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think foraging is really important in anyone's cuisine just because it is a connection to nature, and that's where food comes from. And it's understanding what's surrounding you and really having a connection to the environment and the season. I mean, the season completely dictates what's going on. I mean, right now we're in the middle of summer. A lot of people, when they hear about foraging, they're directly drawn to mushrooms, which are cool.
Yeah.
Like fungus is super cool. It's exciting. But I'm not a mycologist or anything. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on foraging either. But at the same time, I have a wide knowledge and can identify plants and know the toxicology of things and know when something's good for you and what it can be used for and whatnot. And just using those as ingredients is super important. At the restaurant, we were committed to not using any citrus, but we did have a bar program. So what we did was we used spruce tips, which actually have 5 times as much vitamin C as lemons or limes.
That's
to
right.
replace-
But it doesn't taste like acidy. It's really weird. It's like a different kind of acidy.
Yeah, so we would just, through a specific process, blend it with some citric acid to get that citric acid flavor kind of bumped up. And it actually tasted like a mix between lemon and lime.
Wow.
And there's certain things that are in the area that taste, similar to ingredients that we have reference points for.
Now that you talk about it, the smell is like, almost lemony, like
It's almost like fresh lime zest or something like that.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's almost like marijuana with like terpenes. It's like it all comes back to like a citrusy base smell or taste, and
Totally.
spruce is right up in there. Like me, I am guilty of loving mushroom foraging, and I wait for the fall. Like I rarely do anything now, unless it's like a day after it rains. I might find some like oyster mushrooms, but like Chef Wick, he also he's been doing it for a while. But we both have a mutual friend who is not, what is it called, a mycologist?
Mycologist, yeah.
He might as well be. The guy fixes elevators and escalators, and this is what he does when he's not working. He has a passion. My friend Eric Sclair, we should actually hang out with him one day because he could learn a lot from you and you could learn a lot from him. He's awesome, and he brings me out and anywhere September until it snows. And last year, man, we found so many hen of the woods. And that's like my favorite thing now. It's almost going treasure hunting.
Yeah,
I get
definitely.
so freaking excited. I filled the back of my car up last year. I had about 12, and the smallest one was this big.
Yeah,
and I
it's
went,
crazy.
Dude, I went to all my friends' restaurants, and I just dropped them off. I was like, here you go. Some of them pickled them. Some of them put them in a dish that night, and it was just cool to be able to give somebody that. I just go out there looking for something. Like, I don't work in a restaurant, but I know, like, what to look for.
Yeah.
Oyster mushrooms, pink chanterelles, and yeah, like I get super excited. But like, if someone's not looking for a mushroom, but you want to get excited, like what else is there to find?
There's
like,
lots out there. I mean, right now it's the middle of summer, so there's everything. There's Queen Anne's lace, which are basically wild carrots. Right now they're flowering. Those are super cool, and the roots are starting to grow, so you can use those as well. Most of the year you can find stuff like wood sorrel, which a lot of people mistake with clover. Clover is also an edible plant, but it's a little different.
It looks almost exactly
So
like
the difference between the two is they both have 3 leaves. The clover has like a small white stripe running on each of the leaves. The oxalis or wood sorrel, each of the leaf is heart-shaped.
Okay.
And it's called oxalis because it's high in oxalic acid, which is the same chemical that's in rhubarb, spinach.
Okay.
And it is toxic, but I think it's like you need to ingest 25 milligrams of it to have it be like a lethal dosage. And as an example, you would have to eat like 2 pounds of spinach to be able to like OD on it. So you're not going to.
You're not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's sheep sorrel, which is another wild sorrel out there right now. Pineapple weed, which it almost looks like chamomile, and it smells like pineapples. That's
Really?
everywhere.
Never even heard of that. That's cool. You had wood sorrel in a dish that you made me.
Yeah, probably the asparagus
The
dish.
asparagus dish
Yeah.
with the yellow broth in the bottom.
Yeah, so that was just a sauce made from butter and year-old asparagus juice, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you put the year-old asparagus juice? Do you let it ferment or do you put it in the fridge?
So you just take asparagus, juice it, and then add 2% salt to it. So it's a lacto fermentation.
Yep.
Essentially, I mean, are you familiar with the process of lacto fermentation?
My buddy anything I didn't know, my buddy schooled me on. Yeah.
Yeah, so like lactobacillus lives on all organic matter, but it's usually outcompeted by other bacteria. But lactobacillus can thrive in a salty environment. So if you add salt to the liquid, the lactobacillus is able to outcompete all of the other bacteria that's in that liquid.
Okay.
And it'll convert all the starches and sugars into carbon dioxide and lactic acid. So once it drops below a pH of 4.66, it's consumable because it's at a low enough pH where there's no other harmful bacteria that can be in it, and you can just leave it out at room temperature.
Can you check that by eye, or do you have to check it the pH?
We had a pH meter, but I mean, if you've added the proper amount of salt and it's not bubbling anymore, basically not giving off any more carbon dioxide, it's converted everything into lactic acid. If it tastes, acidic, then it's done its job.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's like my new like thing. Like I really want to get into pickling and lacto fermentation, like because you can take anything. And my buddy was telling me I don't know if he pickled or he fermented these peaches, and I don't know how long he did it, but he told me that when they were done, it almost tasted like an olive, and it was just like putting that into like a pasta dish and not letting anybody know what it is, and just that's a peach. Like that to me is like you can pretty much flip every kind of cooking and make something new and different.
Totally.
And like I don't see a lot of people doing it. I see a lot of people like on your level doing it, and a lot of like really like skilled and educated chefs, but your regular restaurant you go to they have pickles and that's about it.
I think a large part of that too is like being committed to creating your own product rather than buying in product.
True.
A lot of things we were experimenting with was with the cocktail program. I mean, if you think about your average cocktail, you have the base liquor, and then you have other things that you mix with it. So let's take like a classic cocktail, like a Manhattan, for example.
Okay.
It's 2 parts of bourbon, 1 part sweet vermouth. What's sweet vermouth? It's a fortified wine that has different herbs and it has some sugar added to it to make it sweet, and some bitters, which is basically grain alcohol that's steeped with some kind of bitter element. That's a classic Manhattan. Well, why do you necessarily have to use sweet vermouth that you purchase from Dolan or whatever? Why do you have to use Angostura bitters that you buy? Why can't you make
your own?
Make your own. And why can't you apply that to every single thing you do?
Okay. That's a insanely awesome way of looking at it. Have you ever made bitters or anything?
Oh,
like
totally. We made these house bitters out of dried black garlic and ash made from burnt hay. And it gave almost a chocolatey flavor. And then we actually did a vermouth substitute by making a liqueur with yarrow that was inoculated with a mold spore called Aspergillus niger.
Okay.
It's this mold spore that's mainly used in tea making in India, pu'er style tea. And you find the mold spore on the inside of allium skins, like shallots. You ever peel shallots back and you see those little black dots on it?
Yeah.
It's actually a mold spore called Aspergillus niger.
Okay.
So you take that and you rinse that off, and then that liquid you just spray onto any organic matter, and it ferments it, and it brings out like really floral, deep flavors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, see that gets me going. I love stuff like that. I'm gonna start with like your rudimentary fruits, vegetables. I do have an affinity for rhubarb. Like that's my favorite kind of pie. I love when anybody puts rhubarb in a dish.
You ever tried Japanese knotweed?
I have some Japanese knotweed honey, but I never have had the actual piece of like the vegetable. No.
I mean, it grows around late April into early May. It's an invasive species, but it grows. I'm sure you've seen it. It looks like a bamboo forest.
Okay, yeah.
When it grows.
I have. That's I forgot where I was. Does it grow like on the shoreline, or is it more of an
It's
inland
right
kind of
around
thing?
here. I mean, I think it's only been around for like 20 years or something.
Okay.
And it came over from Japan, and it just spread like crazy all along the East Coast. It's an invasive species that's like destroying the environment.
Taking over a lot of like,
that and
forest.
garlic mustard's another one that's like really bad for the area.
Okay.
Both are
Where is
delicious,
garlic
though.
mustard from?
It's from Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the brassica family, and that actually has like kind of two growing seasons. It grows like from November to like December until it snows, but then it kind of the leaves stay good under the snow. So at the restaurant, we would actually like dig up the snow and grab like foraged garlic mustard during the middle of winter, so we could
That's
still
so
have
cool,
foraged
man.
herbs, and then they stay good and they grow until basically around late May when they go to seed and then they die off.
Did you see a lot of problems this year with like the weird start we had? How it got like cold, hot,
Yeah,
hot,
it was
and
a
lot
little
of,
weird.
A lot of stuff didn't come up.
But then luckily there wasn't a late frost,
Yeah.
so we won't have problems like we did last year with peaches and whatnot.
Yeah, okay. I just remember like a lot of people getting their gardens started really late this year, and that reminds me when you leave, remind me. My neighbor, his name is Cap. I don't know his full name, but he's a sweetheart. I love him to death. He cannot speak a lick of English, but he's Vietnamese. You will be blown away about with the stuff this guy's growing, and he's having a bad season because like it's got off to a weird start. He's got the craziest vegetables over there, all different kinds of lettuces. He gave me some the other day, and I made these like chicken bacon like wraps, and he like pulled it right out of the ground. He had a machete. He cut the dirt off the bottom, and I ate up. They kind of like went bad, but like a little bit. But I put the bottoms in water, and I used them all week. Dude, he's got so much stuff over there. When we go out, I'll show you. He's got rain barrels lining both sides of his houses, and he collects all the water. Like
That's smart.
He's a whiz, dude.
I'm sure he was shown that by someone though.
Definitely,
and,
definitely. Like you'll really appreciate that. I'll show you when we leave. I am like I'll eat anything. I'll eat anything once. I'll always try something from any type of restaurant, but like I have always had a sweet tooth. Are you looking to do anything new? Like, do you have a PC you work with, or do you make your own desserts and pastries yourself?
I mean, I had a pastry chef at the restaurant, and we would kind of collaborate on desserts sometimes. I don't make traditional desserts like cakes and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I can't bake for shit, but I like looking at desserts from a savory point of view where you're like, okay, this is going to be kind of in the realm of sweet, but I still want it to be balanced. I still want like elements of acid and bitter and fattiness. I really like making ice cream. I think making ice cream is super cool.
Yeah.
It's just like really cool knowing the science behind that and being able to tweak certain things. We made some wacky ice creams. We made like a black garlic ice cream. We made this recipe where we were able to like make ice cream base with any infused oil. So we did this one that was tomato ice cream, but we took tomatoes and marinated them in salt, garlic, thyme, and shallots, and then kind of treated them like sun-dried tomatoes, dried them really slowly, and preserved them in the oil. And then we made an ice cream base out of that oil.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was it sweet or did it taste like?
It was super savory.
Because you figure there's sugar in a lot of in tomatoes.
Yeah.
But it still came out on the savory side.
It wasn't the tomatoes we were actually using; it was the oil that
all
was
the
infused
oils
and
that was
all
with
that
everything.
flavor. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I've never even heard of that. The weirdest I've heard is geranium.
Oh yeah, like citronella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a really good nasturtium ice cream once. It was awesome. You ever go up and eat anywhere in Portland, Maine?
Yeah, I went up to Hugo's once.
This is where I had one of my favorite desserts ever. It was an eclair that was served on a cutting board about this big,
really?
and he cut it in half. But I mean, like there was nasturtium ice cream. There was nasturtium like almost like paste like that you would squeeze out of like a pastry tube.
Mm-hmm.
There was quince jelly. There was all kinds of stuff. There was some weird caramel that was like, you know, infused with a certain herb. That was my favorite dessert that I've had. That's probably my favorite dessert ever. And it was, the thing about it, it was huge. It was awesome, and I ate the whole thing because my girlfriend was stuffed by then. And I remember watching the kid make it, and I remember seeing him going out to tables, and I was like, I need that, whatever that is, and I got one. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff up in Portland. I don't go nearly as much as I should, but there's like a lot of really good restaurants. And we were talking about before, like how there's really nothing that caliber like anywhere anymore, unless you're in a huge city. And they have a couple of really nice restaurants up there.
There's a place up in Dover, New Hampshire. Stages at 1 Washington.
I saw the thing you posted the other day, and I'm definitely going to go there because that is like cool.
It's awesome. I mean,
So
we
cool.
actually did a dinner with him a few weeks ago, and it's crazy. It's just him and 2 other people. They don't have a front of the house. They don't have a dishwasher or anything. They do everything themselves.
Wow.
It's awesome.
How many, like, what size of a restaurant is it?
I mean, I'm sure they probably do max like 12 covers a night. It's definitely a destination restaurant. But, you know, it's a 12-course meal, and still to not have a dishwasher or anyone pouring the wine and changing the silverware, and you're doing all the cooking, that's a lot.
Well, I was surprised when you were coming out with everything and serving us. You know, you're the guy cooking everything.
Yeah.
And you were like coming, describing, and, you know, coming back every time. And I really like that. That was, to me, it's intimate. It's cool. You get to know the food and the chef at the same time.
That's super important to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a position where you can do that, it makes sense for the person who has the most intimate knowledge about the food to be able to explain it to you. You know, I can say as much as I want to a server about a dish and, you know, technique and whatnot, but they're not going to have as good of an understanding as I am.
Yeah, it's gonna get lost in translation. Yeah, man, that was like I can't like rave about it enough. Like that was excellent. I wish I would have made it to Saison when you were still there, but
I mean, it's probably I was just a cook there, and it's probably gotten even better with time.
Oh,
That's a crazy experience. You need a lot of money to go there too. It's I think it's like 500 something now before tax and tip.
for one, how many courses is the tasting menu?
I think it's like 16 or something. But I mean, it's the kind of place where you go in, you get greeted with a glass of Krug.
Yeah.
You get an ounce and a half of caviar as one of your courses. Like,
yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like I like that stuff. Like I said, I'm like, I haven't eaten at too many restaurants of that caliber. You know, I like to be intimate, and I like to have it be, a little bit less than that, but every once in a while, like once a year, I like to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be next up for me. I definitely want to go to Stages, and I want to go back to Stone Barn at some time just because I went 2 years ago, and that's another like seasonal, like it's always going to be different. You know what I mean? But I think it was 26 courses, but it's not like courses. Like
you got a few bites here and there.
Orion fennel, and then they give you the charcoal mayo to dip it in, and then greens from the farm, like, and it's just like, and then they would bring out something with actual, like a piece of meat or a duck or something like that. Yeah, like that's the kind of stuff at my age that like I look forward to. Like I'm saying, like those are the things I save up for.
Totally.
Like little destination meals like that.
You'd think more people would consider dining as an entertainment option the same way where they're like going to drop a couple $100 on a
Like
football
going to a
ticket or
football
something.
game. Yeah, totally. Like that's how I look at it. That's my entertainment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have your average Joe that just wants to have a regular meal somewhere, but then you have like people like you that know where things like that are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not many, you know what I mean? Especially around here, but
No, around here there's nothing.
Nothing.
But if you look at this country, there's a couple of cool things happening, especially in Los Angeles right now. There's some really cool stuff happening.
where?
There's a restaurant that just opened called Vespertine. Have you heard of it?
No.
So the chef's name is Jordan Kahn, and he was like a pastry sous at Alinea for a while.
Okay.
Then he
Excellent restaurant.
He had a restaurant in Los Angeles called Red Medicine. I had dinner there like 3 years ago. It was very good. But now he's opened up this place called Vespertine. So it was a collaboration between him and his business partner, who's the architect of the building. And the idea behind it is, we were talking about stuff being like very locally focused and farm to table and not. He's going the exact opposite. So it's almost an it's an immersive dining experience where he wants you to feel like you've been transported to a spaceship, and the people who inhabit the spaceship are these moon worshippers who have their own culture and whatnot. So it's this whole mythology that's blended in with the restaurant. He had this band create the soundtrack for the whole restaurant. Everyone's clothing is custom made, and they have like little rings and stuff that reference this like moon worshipping mythology folklore that he's created. And none of the food is recognizable, and they won't tell you like, oh, it comes from here, there. Like it's very monotone and doesn't look at all like the way he puts it is the food is the least important part of the dining experience.
Wow. Oh man, now I gotta go. I go to LA often. I have a lot of friends out there, and I don't think any of them would go to a dinner of that caliber with me. But maybe I'll bring my girlfriend. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I love stuff like that. I went not this past summer. Last summer I went to Patina. Excellent, loved it. And I wanted to go to Animal, but I couldn't make it out because that's more like Santa Monica Boulevard area. It's a little bit further from downtown LA, and that's where I was staying. Well, I was actually staying in Alhambra, so it was definitely way farther, and I didn't get to go. But that, like, Patina was good, but I had multiple chef friends tell me to go to Animal, and I just didn't get out there because the Uber ride there would have been like from where I was. It just wasn't, wouldn't have worked.
Totally.
But next time I want to try to hit that up. What else? What else you like?
There's a place opening up called Dialogue over there that should be cool. It's Dave Barron, who was the chef at Next for a long time. His place he's opening up. So it's supposed to be like a tasting counter, but it's in a strip mall, which is pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. And whereabouts? I
think it's in Santa Monica. It's opening up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. Like when I go to California, I've never really dined anywhere in San Diego. I've been there a couple times. I've got a friend that lives there, but as far as like LA and San Francisco, like my brother lives out in San Francisco, so I'm there maybe like twice a year. And like I said before, there's always something new opening. But like to find something like that, like where you're describing, like that's what gets me. That's what has fueled my love for food, food writing, and talking about food with people. And it was just like off a whim. I did not expect to get the meal that I got that night.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I did not expect that. You know what I mean? It was so smart and thought out and intimate, and even at the end of the meal when you guys brought out that little box, Megan cried. Like, if you're gonna make my girl cry how good it was, that's like a real experience.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
That poem was actually written by my sister.
Dude, I put it in a book downstairs, and we flattened it out, and we're gonna put it in a little like its own little frame.
Yeah.
And do
those are kind of things that take a dining experience from something that's special to like really unique.
Next level.
Yeah.
Next level. I was so happy with that, dude. When you brought me into the kitchen, you showed me that little grill that you put the spruce on. What was it called?
Well, it's traditionally used to cook yakitori, which is like Japanese skewer
dishes,
food. Yeah. And the name of the grill is like a Conro grill, but it's used to hold binchotan, which is a type of charcoal that's made in Japan. It's white oak that's been compressed at really high temperatures and really high pressure. And the benefit to it is it burns really hot, like close to 1,000 Fahrenheit.
It looked really hot. It was almost white.
Yeah, and it burns for 3 to 4 hours, one piece of charcoal, and it burns without smoke as well.
I was going to say, because you guys had it open. It was still under a hood somewhere, but it was just open on like a countertop. And that was, to me, like that caught my eye. Like,
well, it's because we didn't run any gas in the restaurant as like a cost-saving thing. It was an all-electric kitchen.
Okay.
So as part of that, in order to cook, we used the grill. And instead of having a gas bill, we would just spend $800 on charcoal every 6 months. Yeah.
That's... I've never heard of that. I've never heard of someone not using gas in a kitchen. Wow. Let's talk more about the things you showed me when we went downstairs. You were doing all your own vinegars, right? But what caught my eye was your charcuterie program.
So we were actually charcuterie is kind of difficult in this country because technically you have to have something called a HACCP plan, which stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Plan. So in America, each state has its own food code, right? So we're in Connecticut right now, and I'm sure their food code says that you need to keep food out of the temperature danger zone, which is between 42 and 135 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Well, in order to make charcuterie, you need to ideally have it around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is in the temperature danger zone. The way you get around that is you have to apply for something called a variance. So a variance allows you to like bypass the food code, but in order to apply for that variance, you need documentation proving that you know what you're doing. And in order to do that, you need this thing called a HACCP plan.
Okay.
Ours was developed by an ex-FDA inspector, and I've been trained to know the critical control points that might be hazardous if someone didn't know what they're doing or something goes wrong. Because at the end of the day, you know, all this stuff is really cool, cured meats and fermentation and stuff. But if you don't know what you're doing, you could kill someone.
You could hurt somebody,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. You could definitely hurt somebody.
Yeah.
My friend just opened a restaurant in Blueback Square. The chef from Millwrights and the guy that owns Bear's Barbecue came together and they did like a barbecue take on fine dining or vice versa. And he was the guy that also works there. My friend Ed was telling me about that, like having to live up to that health code and having things have to be that cooked at that temperature, and how a lot of chefs, you know, will say, yeah, but it's actually cooked a little bit under that because
totally.
you will burn it out and take all the flavor out if you actually cook it at what the health people want you to cook it at. And that's always.
I mean,
like,
that's one thing, you know, when you're cooking on the spot and doing that. But when you have a health inspector coming in, they're like, oh, you're hanging meat at room temperature, or you're using this vacuum sealer that's putting stuff in a zero oxygen environment. Do you know what you're doing? Like, I can't just take your word on it.
Yeah.
I need documentation for this.
Definitely.
And that was a big part of it is, you know, when you're doing whole animal butchery and you're doing cured meats, you need to be able to utilize these things in order to be sustainable. And a big part of that was getting these licenses. Luckily, I am extremely knowledgeable in all of these processes now.
Oh, that was very apparent when you brought me down there and showed me everything. That was just like, you were also, you were brewing something with the strawberry tops. What was that?
Well, we had started off trying to make wine with it, and it didn't quite work out, so we were just converting it to vinegar. We were converting the alcohol that we had created from
Green strawberry tops?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
just the tops. And that turned out pretty nice.
Yeah, it looked cool, man. That was like that. I hope you get into something like that. I hope you get into a kitchen where you can like really spread your wings and do all that shit again, because like that's what I like to see. Like I never really go into my friends' restaurants' basements, and they're not doing anything like that. They're doing some stuff, and some people have charcuterie programs in salumi areas or whatever like that, but for what was going on there, man, it was just like a wealth of knowledge that would that's the kind of restaurant for me. I'm going to go back more than seasonally because I want to see what's going on, and I want to see all that food brought to the plate.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And I don't think, well, a lot of people don't, look at it like me and you do, but like if you were in a spot right now that, where you were doing that, it would be like I'd go monthly just to see how you changed your menu.
I mean, it's not that difficult. It really just takes someone looking at product, and instead of saying, what am I going to do with this? Say, what am I going to do with this if it doesn't sell? Or what am I going to do with this if it starts to go bad? And look at it from that point of view first before you say, what am I going to do with this?
Yes, definitely. If you, let's say you won the lotto tomorrow and you wanted to open up your own restaurant, as far as like size, how many, what the menu would be like, what are you going to try to do? Let's say if it was all up to you.
Oh, I would open a spot that did no more than 20 covers a night and had a crew of like 10 people. And we did, doesn't matter the amount of courses, but it'd be hyper seasonal. We'd have the best quality product we could, and we'd give the best experience to people possible. That's it.
When it comes to, formal training, like, shit, like a lot of people go to culinary school and they learn like traditional chef like French cuisine. Like, what other ways are people learning nowadays?
Just get into a restaurant and say, I'll work for free, and people will probably take you on.
And just show you what's going on.
That's it.
Wow.
That's the smartest route to go. You know, like you can go to culinary school and spend thousands of dollars, or you can go somewhere and say, hey, I'm going to work for free.
Show me what you got.
Exactly.
See, that's really cool. That's awesome. Let people know how they can, if they want to get in touch with you, or if you want to, like, you know, plug anything, or if you want to, like,
I
tell
don't have
people.
anything to plug, but if you want to get in touch with me, my email is aadlerj@gmail.com.
And your Instagram is John Dazer?
John Adler. So it's
Adler.
John Adler with a Z
With a
instead
Z.
of an L.
Why, was there already a John Adler?
No, I think I was just feeling like being different.
That's awesome. What's the guy's name from Guns N' Roses? There's an Adler in Guns N' Roses.
Steven Adler.
Steven Adler.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you related?
No.
Oh, man, that would be awesome.
No,
if he was, like-
actually, so my original name was Schwartz Adler, but when my grandfather came over, it was too long of a name, so they made him decide either Schwartz or Adler.
Oh,
So he
okay.
chose Adler, yeah.
What background is that?
German.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, people in your family that have passed down any, like, German secret cooking?
No, but actually, I'm going to become a German citizen in about 6 months. which is
Really?
super cool. Yeah.
Oh, so you're out of here, dude.
Maybe.
I
We'll
think
see.
you're definitely out of here. I'm gonna have to come to Germany. Nobody else with a cooking background in your family?
My great-great-grandfather was a master butcher, but I didn't know him, obviously.
But still, some gene came down the
Maybe.
line and hit you.
Here's a really good quote, though, and this is one that I used. It's a Stephen King quote. It's, talent is cheaper than table salt. The difference between a talented individual and a successful individual is a whole lot of work.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I think I'm going to end it right there because I don't think we can top that. Ladies and gentlemen, John Adler, wherever he lands, I will keep you posted because I need to eat this guy's food again. It was super delicious. It was super thought out, and it was super smart. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. John Adler, everybody.